My first piece of advice would say, don't think that your culture is the one that is superior. Uh, and that means adapt to the culture in which you want to, live in. Uh, just you have to try to keep an open mind, and just because your way of doing things is good for you, is the best for you, it doesn't mean it's the same for that culture or that person or that. And always keep it authentic and always stay true to yourself.
When we talk about immigrants and numbers, we stop seeing people. But when we put faces to the stories, we can finally feel.
All right, welcome, Paul. Welcome to CrossBorder. Thank you for being here.
To be here with you.
Thank you for accepting my invitation. It's hard to find, people that want to be on camera, and you did, so perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was born to be on camera.
And I think you are, because I watched some of your podcasts, and I think you
Yeah.
are. So,
Yeah.
but for people that don't know who you are, will you introduce yourself and kind of talk a little bit about you?
Well, yeah, sure, man. My name's Paul Perry, and I'm originally from Philadelphia. I used to eat my cheesesteaks at Pat's. And so I grew up in South Philly, and I moved to, well, I have Argentine roots. So I always came to Argentina on vacation whenever my parents decided to come here. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And like I said, I used to come here on vacation, and eventually in the 90s, I decided to come stay for a while. And I stayed, and I built a life here, and I became the person that I am now, 35 years later.
That's awesome. So, Paul, you say you have Argentinian roots.
Uh-huh.
Evidently your parents are from Argentina, and they moved to the
Mhm.
U.S. and you were born there.
Yeah, they moved to the U.S. I think I'm the product of, two young people in the 60s,
Right,
if you know what I mean. So
right. Yeah,
I consider myself to be like in another dimension, because I think I was
right.
I was conceived during, a trip through another dimension.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Uh, on the same note, right? We're talking about
Sure.
you were born in the U.S. So, how old you were when you decided? You said you moved to Argentina in the 90s, but how long did you live here in the U.S.? I'm in the U.S. That's why I say,
Uh-huh.
here, because I live in the U.S.
Yeah. 22 years.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
that's
22
the
years.
age I moved to the US, because I moved
Oh, okay.
when I was 21. So you moved to
Yeah.
Argentina when you were 21,
Yeah.
22.
Yeah, I think I was lucky too. I think I have a gifted life, in a sense that I was able to experience growing up, at a time where it was good. It was fun to be a child, especially in during the 70s and 80s. I was a teenager in the 80s, which was the best time. I mean, from what I've experienced, I don't know what it
Right,
was to be a teenager in the 50s. I don't know what it
right,
was to be a teenager in the 40s, but for me, the 80s was a moment where just I don't know, it was just great being a teenager in the 80s. And then I came to Argentina in the 90s, which was a great time to be in Argentina in the 90s. Now, I don't know what it was like to be in Argentina in the 50s or 60s. It was probably really cool. But I think if you look at, generations today, I don't know if they were as lucky as we were, in the sense of what it meant to be like free, because we're
Paul,
all, we're all, we're all tied to some kind of, we're all tied in some way. We're tied. You and me, we back in the 80s, we would have never met unless it was at a casino or,
right,
at a bar in Vegas, but we would never be meeting. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
And I had to agree
Yeah.
with you,
So,
because I grew up in the 80s. So we're probably about the same age. I'm 53.
yeah.
So I grew up in the 80s, and Argentina in the 80s was a complete different country. A complete
Oof.
different. It was great. I had a great
Yeah.
childhood, and it was fantastic. And you had the
Yeah.
same experience in the US. So I think
Yeah.
I think that was all over the world, very similar,
Yeah,
in my opinion, at least
sure.
Western European cultures.
That's what makes me, feel like I am from a different dimension because I experienced two different worlds in two different eras of a
Right,
country. The
right,
90s here were these here were like no other time in Argentine history, the one to one,
right,
I came here at a time where I was making a lot of money compared to people in the States doing something as simple as teaching English with no teaching English skills.
right,
It was like, what?
right.
So, yeah.
So, immigrants, people migrate for different reasons, right? And I want to know what drive you to go to Argentina. I mean, most people go for financial, economy reasons with financial
Yeah.
problems. Some people are running away from political stuff or
Uh,
whatever. But I found it interesting because I interview other people from Argent that live in Argentina
sure.
from the U.S. They don't go there for money, right? So,
Yeah,
what
sure.
was your driving factor for you to go to Argentina?
Well, I mean, everyone's always running from something. You're always running from something. People are running from something. These hot steppers that hot step across Europe, and there's in some way they're running from something. They're escaping something. They're changing something. So I was just like, trying to get away. I always felt comfortable in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, and especially coming out of Philly, and you come out of Philly, and at 2 o'clock everything was over. Everybody. I mean, I'm from a lower middle class family. I didn't have the Cadillac. I didn't have the Trans Am. I didn't have the Camaro Z28. I had a 1979 Honda Accord, which was basically considered a piece of shit. And and when some guys in Philly would pull up to you, pull up beside you at a red light, and they're in a Trans Am Pontiac Firebird, and you're in a 1979 Honda Accord. It's kind of like, so, and everything was like that. You have a thin, gold chain, you have a thick gold chain, you have a little watch, you have a big watch, you got the Gucci, you got this, and it
Right,
was all about competition. And I had experience coming to Buenos Aires, and when I came to Buenos Aires, and when I graduated high school, I was like, wow, man, everybody seems to be like equal. And because I had a Nerf football that was the color of Boca, you know what I'm saying? I was like, and I knew how to throw it. I was
right.
considered a god, man.
Wow.
I was like, everybody come see this guy throw this weird ball in the air. You know what I'm saying? So I
Right,
was like, whoa. I felt really good. I was like, whoa, I'm not the spick, driving the old Honda Accord. I'm the Shanky that can throw a fucking weird ball the colors of Boca Junior. So
right.
I was like, wow, man, I got to come back here. And when I graduated, I started college. I took out a student loan. I was going to college. I had to go to work at night. I was working at a restaurant and yada, yada, yada. So, what am I doing here? So I quit school, I quit college, and I saved up my money working as a waiter
Yeah.
at what was this place called? Garden State Park in Cherry Hill. It was a racetrack at Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It burnt down. It's not there anymore. It burnt
I don't
down
think I heard of
twice.
it, but
Cherry Hill, and anyway, and so I quit and I got myself a ticket and I came to Buenos Aires. And shortly after, I started working as a rapper at some bars in Ramos Mejia. And I was getting paid. I was getting paid to rap. I didn't even know what the hell I was saying. I was just rapping Run DMC and other songs that I was familiar with. And I was getting paid. I was signing autographs. And I was like, wow, I'm staying here. So I knew that this place was a place where I could stand out,
right.
and not be just another Shanky, another face in the crowd, you know.
You say
And it happened.
something
It
like,
happened. It happens to a lot of Americans, man. I had a friend
right.
who looked like MacGyver. He was from Texas. He looked like MacGyver. And here they thought he was MacGyver. They thought he was MacGyver, and
And they
the
probably call him
girls thought.
MacGyver.
And they call him MacGyver, man. He was MacGyver. To his friends, he was Tex. He's like, man, Paul, I went back to Texas. I wasn't Tex anymore. I'm Edward. So
Right,
he was just another gringo, another Shanky, another
right.
nothing. You know what I'm saying? So anyway.
One thing you say, they got me thinking. You say everybody's running away from something. I think maybe running away or chasing something is probably the same thing. Because
Yeah.
some people are chasing something different, or more likely running away. Maybe they're chasing something because they're running away from something, but I think they go hand to hand. I think people,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, if you think of travelers, why someone wants to travel? Maybe they want
Yeah.
to see a different part of the
Open new
world.
doors, man. It's about
Right,
opening new
right,
doors. It's,
right,
some
right,
some doors you close, some doors you leave halfway open, and some doors you open. You know what I'm
right,
saying? And
right.
that's the future. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
and another thing, the similar experience to what you have in the U.S. I had in my hometown in Argentina. So you had a this is what became very interesting because you went to the U.S. and you had a bad experience. I mean, you went to Argentina. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. And you know you go to Argentina, you find you get all this attention and people are treating you good and all this stuff and it's fun and you're making money.
Oh, people didn't
But
always treat me good.
not always. I mean, we try
No.
to, yeah, I'm sure
No.
some people don't, but
Oh, yeah.
and then back in the US, you compare yourself with other people, and you are not that you feel like you struggle with the idea of someone driving a Camaro, you're driving a Honda Accord, or working in a as a waiter, that kind of stuff. But similar to what you experience in the U.S., I experienced in Argentina, which I experienced discrimination. I experienced discrimination for different reasons, color and social, financial, right? Like
Yeah.
financial status, same as
Sure.
you. And where I grew up was a little English town, and I went to an English school, and it was about what kind of job you have and what you drive and what you wear. So
Yeah.
when I came to the US, I didn't see what you saw in the 80s, but both stories are true. What you're saying and
Yeah.
what I'm saying, but it's different why we have similar experience in different countries, but you went to Argentina to find what you couldn't get in the US, and I found what I couldn't get in Argentina. But you know what I
Sure.
mean? Like it's very
Yeah.
interesting, different perspective. I
Mm.
believe what you're saying 100% because um, that was your experience. Right? But I did
Yeah.
have that similar experience in Argentina. So going back to what we're talking about, you say something about dimension, right? Like in a different
Mhm.
dimension. Is that something you believe or something you read about it? Or what is your perspective on that? I want to make sure.
Man, it's like when you dream, it's like when you dream. You dream the things you dream. I say dimensions because one time I had a bar. I had a bar and the name of the bar was called Bukowski. And I decorated the bar, subconsciously without even knowing. I decorated the bar with the aim of trying to take people's imagination to another dimension. Okay, so and it happened when people walked into the bar, they were like, "Whoa, where the hell am I?" And immediately they would take out their phone and just start taking selfies and pictures everywhere because it was just an explosion of imagination and art. It had books, it had Atari, it had Nintendo, it had everything you can imagine, and it was a pretty popular bar. And this one time, this one guy, he was a un brujo. He's like a
Mhm.
witch doctor or a warlock, a warlord, or something like that. And he was a warlock, a witch doctor. And he had stones and he believed in all this mystical stuff. And he asked me, he said, "How many lives do you think you've lived?" And I was like, well, that's a pretty good question because I've pretty much done a lot of stuff. I mean, going from
Right,
Philly to working, I started working at the age of 12 to coming to Argentina working as a rapper to starting a baseball team. And I mean, I've done so much. So those are my dimensions. It's like you gather these experiences, man. To your mind, it's just you're just I don't know, an explosion of life. And the person
right,
who sits inside a room all day can never imagine the life of someone who just doesn't stay still all day and is always creating and inventing and trying different ways to like change people's lives, like my podcast.
right. Right. No, that was good. I just want to know what your perspective was on that because you say that a few times, so I want the audience to understand too.
Yeah.
Another question I have is: I notice your English is really good, like a Native American, right? And
Yeah.
you are because you were born here in the U.S. So, did you know Spanish when you went to Argentina already, or you learned the Spanish in Argentina?
No, we always spoke Spanish at home. Being in my
Huh,
house in South Philly was like being in Argentina. We had milanesas, we had empanadas, we ate polenta, we ate everything. We always spoke Spanish. I only spoke
right.
English out on the street. but as a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s, I was never home. I was only at home for
Right.
dinner.
Right.
So
Right.
when I
I
got
mean,
here, my
that's for
Spanish was a
everybody grew
little,
up in the 80s was like that.
yeah, you didn't, the only time you went into your room was when your parents sent you to your room,
Right.
and that was the last place
Right.
you wanted to be, was in your room. There was nothing to do. When I
That's
got
true.
kids, and when I'm mad or something, I say, okay, you know what? Get out of your room. Go outside. So,
Right.
yeah.
That's true.
But no, but I grew up speaking Spanish.
That's good. But the way I haven't heard you speaking in Spanish very little, but
Hmm.
I notice you have a good accent too. So you might be one of those
Hmm.
people that speak both language almost perfect, I will say.
Yeah, I speak Portuguese too. Falo português.
Oh, really?
I speak
Wow.
Portuguese. Yeah, yeah. I lived in Rio for a couple of years, in Brazil for a couple of years,
That's cool.
in
So
Areal da Ajuda.
do you
Island.
feel American anymore or not, Paul?
I
Where are
don't.
you at with that?
Like I said, I feel like I'm from another dimension. I'm in a class all by myself. I'm a hybrid. There are several hybrids, that I know. A hybrid is a person that can go from Argentine to American. In my case, I can go from Argentine to American to even Brazilian sometimes for a short period.
Uh,
My Portuguese is not perfect, but I can chamuchar,
right,
in Portuguese.
right, right. I think after you live in a lone place for a long time,
Sure.
you did not, now in Argentina, I think that's kind of, I never thought it from a different dimension or it being stuck in a dimension or something. But, sometimes I don't know
Yeah.
where I belong because
Yeah.
in the United States, I don't think with everything that's going on, you don't feel like you really are from here. But I live here more than 30 years. So I think
That's not
I
much.
adopted the culture very well. But
Yeah.
if I go to Argentina, I don't feel like I am from Argentina either because I haven't been there in a long
Huh.
time. So maybe I am in some
Yeah.
sort of dimension, as you say. I don't know.
Yeah. Or maybe you need to travel around,
I I have
you
been,
know?
and I've been
Oh, okay.
traveling, especially the past
Okay.
few years. I
Yeah.
did, and I love it. By the way,
Yeah.
um, I
A
have more
lot of the people
questions.
I meet, yeah, sure, go ahead. Yep.
I have a bunch of questions I've been reading right here. So what does home mean to you now? Is Argentina your home?
Argentina is my home without a doubt. Yeah. It's without a
You think you will retire there?
In this sense is get a pension here? I hope to retire, I don't know, maybe somewhere in Switzerland with a nice Swiss bank account, but I
Right,
don't think that's gonna happen. But I don't know, man. If I do retire here, I hope the retirement is something that is enough for me to live, because I don't foresee myself. I can see myself working until I am, or doing stuff. I don't, this is Argentina, man.
right,
Here, la remas, you got to row,
right,
row every day. That's because it's
right,
not easy, man. There's no free rides, But I live a pretty modest life. I have an old car, I have a small house, I have a house by the beach. Like I said, I came here because I admired the simplicity of life. I wasn't a person that was, I didn't want to have the biggest gold chain. I didn't want to have the Cadillac. I just wanted to have a car, and I wanted to have the simple things. And so I liked it. I liked it. And what's good is that, I have my car. It's an old car. I have my house. It's a small house, but it's mine. It's
right,
mine. You know what I'm
right,
saying? It's no one's going to take it. It's mine.
right.
My car's mine. It's like, yeah. So
I think
as long as, man, I can do the things I like, I'll stay here.
right,
If the day comes that I can't do, and I'm not having fun, and I'm not enjoying my life, then maybe I'll change. I'll go somewhere else if there's an opportunity.
right. Argentina is financially speaking, you had to row all the time, as we say in Argentina, remar, right?
Yeah, take it or not.
But you say something very important that I think I probably miss, which is the family connection, the simplicity, right?
Yeah,
And I think I miss that, living in an economy like the US, consumer economy, right? Capitalism,
yeah,
the pressure of working every day and buying is here. I mean, you say something, I
sure.
have my house and I own it, right? When you ask people here if they own a house, they say, yeah, we own the house. You don't really own it. You own the money to the
Yeah,
bank. So you
yeah,
don't, you have a
The
house
bank
loan.
owns it. The
Right.
bank owns
Most
it.
American finish paying their home when they're 70, 60, 70 years old
Yeah, when
because
they're
throughout their
dead.
life they buy multiple houses on credit. They sell
Yeah,
one, they
yeah,
buy another one, a bigger house. They sell another one, they buy a bigger house. So if they sell
yeah,
one to pay off another house, it's different. But they sell a house to buy a bigger house. They always get in a bigger debt because the first
yeah.
house they purchased was not big enough. Then they get another one bigger, then another one bigger, and a bigger car, and a bigger this, and a bigger that, and then you're always on credit. And I have been I'm part of that too. Now that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
at my age, I don't want none of that anymore. I'm done.
yeah.
I
Right,
realized
right.
that if I keep doing this in the US, I'm never gonna retire.
I had another car. I
Never.
had a car. I had 2 cars. I had 2 cars, and I said, "What the hell do I want 2 cars for? I got 1 car." So I sold the other car. And with the
Right.
money that I sold the other car, I used it. I spent it. I had fun with it, and that's
Right.
it. Now I said, what do I need 2 cars? I could have changed 2 cars in and got 1 car, but I was like,
Right.
nah, I just sell 1 car and I have money, fun with,
Right.
but it's a cash economy, man. It's a cash
Right.
economy. You want to buy a house, you need cash. You want to buy a car, you need cash. You sell your car, you're
Right.
gonna get cash, and it's a cash economy. So it keeps people from, spending their cash.
Right.
Huh? It's easy. It's easy to spend money you don't have.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Very easy. The problem with that is, Paul, is you buy something, right? And as anything you buy it now and it's new,
yeah,
the enthusiasm or the happiness of buying something lasts maybe 4 or 5 months. It could be a house, a
yeah,
car, whatever. But the credit
whatever.
to pay for it is forever. So once that excitement goes away, you're stuck with the payment. And that's where most
Yeah,
people struggle. And then what they do is they go buy something else so they can get that feeling again, but to buy
sure.
something else, it means they're getting into more debt, right?
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
economy here.
It's like a drug.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Personally, I'm done, and I might retire in Argentina. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking when I retire. So I interviewed this
Argentina.
guy. Go ahead.
Argentina. I mean, I'm in Buenos Aires, man. And Buenos Aires it's a beautiful city. I mean, it's a beautiful
Hmm.
city. It's got ugly parts like any city, but it's got a
Right,
lot of life, man. It's got a lot of energy, and it's got a lot of positive energy, and I feel it when I go out. The places where I go, and and if you want to do stuff, it's the place to be. Like when I have my house by the beach. If I want to do nothing and just like breathe fresh air, I jump in my car, I go to my beach house, and I'm there in 4 hours. You know what I'm
right,
saying? That's pretty cool. So that's why another one of my dimensions. I have my house at the beach, and I have my in the city where I do my podcast. I meet my friends, and yada yada yada. And I go to the
right,
beach, and I just forget about everything, and I switch channels. You know what I mean?
right.
So, and those
So,
things are
Paul,
not. Yeah. Anyway.
I have another question. So I interview this
Sure.
guy named Ross, right? And there was a funny situation where moment on doing the podcast where I say, "Who's more louder, Americans or Argentinians?" Right? And I
Hmm.
say, "I think we are the loudest." He said, "No, no, we Americans are the loudest." I said, "Well." I said, "How about? I mean, have you went to a soccer match, or have you, Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's not. I think you cherry picked that one for me. Like, well, my opinion about who's louder, I think Argentinians are loud all the time. We're very loud people, but
Yeah.
Americans are louder when they drink. I think drinking
Sure.
is what triggered them to be social because the Americans
Yeah.
are not very social, not the way Argentinians are. At least that's my perspective. But when they're drinking, I do believe they drink a lot more than we do, way more,
Yeah.
more Argentinians, and they become social and louder and funnier too.
Yeah.
I mean, they open for
Yeah.
anything while they're drinking. What's
Yeah.
your take on that?
Well, man, I mean, they drink more because they're bigger normally. Huh?
Right.
I mean, so that's what. And the the
Yeah.
the more you drink, the dumber, the stupider you get. Uh,
Right.
well, that. But I noticed, man. I have an anecdote. I was in Valencia. I went to visit my brother who lives in Valencia. We were out one night, and we were at a
Yeah.
rock bar. There was a live band. I don't know what was going on. But if you wanted to smoke a cigarette, or you wanted to, get some air, you had to go outside. First, you have to leave your drink at the door, and then you went outside, right? And when you went outside, I met this Argentine guy, and we were like, "Sí, boludo, porque blah, boludo." And the bouncers would come up to you and go, and he's like, "¿Qué le pasa a este boludo?" Yeah, shh. So they were just, and he said, and he would point at a sign. He says, "No loud talking after 10 o'clock" or some shit like that, you know.
Right.
So we continued, and I looked around. Everybody was talking quietly. But the Argentines and me and my brother, we were like, "Sí, ¿de dónde? Sí, loco."
Right.
So we were the
Right.
loudest in Valencia, man. You know, all the Europeans were like
Right.
really quiet, but we were loud.
But yeah,
So yeah,
Europe is very.
Argentines are loud, man.
I
Yeah, we're very
agree.
expressive. It's kind of like the Italian.
Oh
It's
yeah,
a
like
very Italian thing.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree with
Especially with
you.
the
So
boludo,
Ross,
boludo,
if you
boludo.
listen to
Che,
this
boludo.
podcast, Ross, if you
Yeah.
listen to this podcast, I was right. You know, Paul support my idea that Argentinians are louder.
Argentines are definitely louder, definitely friendlier, and definitely more went on. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
that's
Look,
for
I have
sure, man.
yeah, maybe yes. I mean, I met a lot of
There's
great
always some
people, man.
piolas, you know.
Yeah,
Argentines are piolas. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the Argentine characteristics that I have. That's
right,
innate. It's part of me, and it was part of me in Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? I'm
right,
piola, which sometimes got me in trouble.
right,
What are you, wise ass? You know, I was a wise ass. It's el vivo.
right.
And sometimes that works against you. Nobody likes a wise ass, but Argentines are like wise asses.
I
Uh,
agree. We
uh,
are. That's a good
so,
description. But at the same
yeah,
time, if you get to understand the Argentinian culture, we are not really a wise person. We're not really like that, which is cool people. We like to hanging out. We like to joke very heavily, and
yeah.
that's how we are. I mean, but at the same time, I have great friends here in the U.S. And I live in Louisiana, and
Uh-huh.
I think the closest to an Argentinian person is Louisiana people with a French root. But it's just they funny people all around. They're very outgoing, not as Argentinian do, but they're very
Mhm.
family oriented. But I met good people from all over the place. I just love people. I love culture. But yeah, I think Argentinians are funny people. Depends on how much you can handle. They could be annoying or it could be funny. I don't know.
Brazilians are cool too. Brazilians are cool. I
Yeah.
met some really cool Brazilian people. They're really cool. I mean, they have a joy for life. You know what I'm saying? They have a, I don't know, they're always, they seem to be happy. There are a lot of choros. And there's, you know, there's crooks and scumbags everywhere, man. Yeah,
Oh
there's
yeah.
scumbags here, there's scumbags in Brazil, there's the scumbags everywhere. But you have a lot of cool
Absolutely.
people, man. I've had the fortune of meeting a lot of really cool people here and making a lot of really cool friends. One of them was Luis Alberto Spinetta. He was a friend of mine. I don't know if you know who Spinetta.
Oh
You're
yeah, I know
familiar
who
with
he is,
Spinetta.
but I didn't know. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm that old
he
to
was a
know who
good
he
friend of
is.
mine.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
he was a good friend of mine, and yeah, we hung out a lot with Spinetta. Uh,
Did you play music, Paul? Are you a musician?
no,
Do you
no,
play
no,
music? No.
no, no. I play the piano, but I'm just an
Mm,
amateur. I had a band
right.
when I had when I had my bar. I had a band, the Bukowski House Band. I was a singer. I sang like 4 songs, but it's
Mm,
just one
right.
of those dimensions I was talking about.
Right. Right. So,
Yeah,
Paul, I have more questions for you. So, I know when you have a family in Argentina. Do you have your family? You
yeah.
have kids. You know.
I'm married. I got kids. That's one thing that you mentioned about family. For example, I have 3 kids. They're all adults. We have dinner together every night. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
that's something special. You know, we all work together as a family, which is
Right.
something that's not very common nowadays. You know, we're a really close family, um, pulling all in the same direction to get through, which is all what is always a difficult economic life in Argentina, in the sense
Right.
that, you know, there's no extras, there's no bonuses, you know. So I understand it's just,
Right. Way
but
different
so
than
that's
here, for
something
sure.
that's really, you know, that's something that's really important in my life, my family.
Right.
So as long as we stay tight, we stay close, and we all, you know, try to move forward. I mean, you know, we look for subtle luxuries. Now we're looking forward to all of us being able to take a vacation together. You know,
Right.
maybe to Chile or maybe to, I don't know, somewhere nice. You know what I'm saying? But we
Right.
have to save up
Right.
because you need cash. You need cash.
Right.
There's no,
So you don't
there's
have any
no.
family ties back to the US, right? None?
I have a brother. I have a brother in Atlanta. Uh, and that's it. That's all.
Right. So you probably
Yeah, they're
never,
not.
when was the last time you came to the US?
I was there 2001,
Oh,
2001, a long time ago. I
does your
went
family
back.
ever visit the US or not?
No, not now.
No?
I went back. It was the same. My friends, I mean, some of my friends, if they weren't dead, they were in jail. If they weren't in jail, they were living inside their parents' basement. And if they weren't living inside their parents' basement, they were miserable and married. So,
Right.
I was like, nah, you know,
So
no
you still
thanks.
working as a school teacher these days, or what are you doing?
No, man, I do SEO, search engine optimization. I handle a couple
Oh,
websites, and then I teach English. I teach English on a regular basis, but hey, it
right.
pays the bills, man. Todo suma.
Right.
It
Right.
all helps. So I teach English,
Right.
and nah, that's about it, man. That's about it.
Right.
I'm a writer. I'm a writer, so I
How
sell
do you
some
know
books
that?
every now and then. Yeah,
Oh.
I sell books every now and then. I wrote a book about Luis Alberto Spinetta as a memoir.
Mm.
I wrote a couple kids books, and I've published 5 books,
Wow.
and I'm
I
working
want
on
you had
a.
to give me the name of those books so I can put them on
Yeah, sure,
the description
sure.
for sure.
Buenos Aires Chronicles. Buenos Aires Chronicles is the name of my first book, Poetically Porteño. It's a really
Right.
good book. I thought that book was going to sell millions of copies, but hey, that's part of the pipe dream.
Mm-hmm.
And then my Spinetta book, Mi Vecino el Flaco, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
working on a second edition of the English version. It's a book that I wrote in 72 hours, a few months after he died. And I wrote it really, really fast in 3 days. And what else? And that's it, man. I sell some books. Now I'm doing the
Mm-hmm.
podcast. That makes no money, but I'm looking for funding to do more shows.
That was my
And
next question. My next
sure.
question, the
That's about
podcast,
it.
because you're interviewing people that live in Argentina,
Uh,
mainly immigrants, right?
sure.
So talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit, because I think that this is how I found you. This is why
Hmm.
you showed up on my YouTube feed or TikTok. I can't remember. And
I think it was
because
TikTok.
I think it was TikTok, yes. And I'm looking at you in interviewing people like not just American, but immigrant from all over the world. There's a few people doing
Uh-huh.
that where they interview immigrants from the country they live in, and
Mhm.
I'm more like I interview immigrants from all over the world, right? And so I'm asking you, what drive you to do that, and how was your experience with the podcast and interviewing immigrants over there?
Well, this basically, the Gringos in Buenos Aires podcast is basically a spin-off or a part of what was originally the idea of an all English radio program. It was called Rock and News Radio, which I wanted to do in 1993. And together with a friend of mine, we did one pilot show. And it was basically a radio program, all in English, about what was happening in Buenos Aires and what was happening in some parts of the world in English, man, on
Yeah.
FM 95, FM 95.3 Rock and News
Mm,
Radio. It was an all
mm.
English radio station. But that didn't develop, man. It didn't develop. There wasn't the technology that we didn't have any. We had no idea what we
Internet,
were doing.
right?
Yeah, we did one show, and one night I was talking to these guys that interviewed me for my book, Mi Vecino el Flaco, and I told them, I said, I have an idea for an all English radio. And they were like, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah, but we don't have to do a radio. We can just do a podcast. I can interview people." And they was like, "Oh, okay, let's do it." So they invited me to the studio, Recoveco Studios, Recoveco Records, and they invited me, and we did 12 shows. And they loved it. And it had a lot of good positive feedback. And they said, okay, whenever you want to do more shows, let's do more shows. But I got to charge you. So now I pay.
Okay.
And at least once a month, I try to do at least 3 shows, 3 episodes. And basically, it's all people that live in Buenos Aires. And just like we're doing, now we talk and I ask them, what's your favorite food? What do you like, your first impression? Do you eat asado, tomate? Do you like the hello kiss? Boludeces.
Right.
But people
Right.
like it,
Yeah. I
and
think
it's
it's
fun.
interesting.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
I do it because it's fun. I mean, if I want to do things that are not fun, I'll work.
Right.
And if I
Right.
want to do
Right.
things that are fun, I'll do these things and I'll make no money, but at least I'll have fun,
I agree.
you know?
I actually enjoy immigration topics, and this is why I got to watch one of the podcasts recently. I think I even make a comment in one of the videos. But
Yeah.
um, yes, first of all, you were interviewing actors, writers, and now it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
There are a lot of
let's
interesting
this,
people in Buenos Aires,
yeah,
man.
interesting
There are a
people.
lot of there are a lot of intelligent people. You won't find a lot of idiots here. I've met a couple idiots. Yeah, I met a couple American idiots. There
uh,
are a lot of American idiots. There are a lot of
everywhere.
there are a lot of idiots in the world. Some of them do
Right.
arrive to Argentina. You got to deal with them. I'm non-confrontational. I've learned to
Right.
control but there are a lot of idiots. You meet a lot of idiots from all over the world, but there are
Right.
a lot of interesting and intelligent people that you learn from. You
Right.
know.
So in my life right now, I'm an immigrant, and I try to understand how my next 20 years gonna be, right? And
Yeah.
I'm learning. I'm learning from you right now, and I'm learning from all the people that I interview already. And I had the podcast for 9 months. The podcast was not something I was planning to. I'm a technology person, and we're developing basically a tool for mental health.
Yeah.
Uh, clinics and stuff like that. Basically it's a tool where
Yeah.
people can communicate, right? Provide a
Yeah.
therapy
Yeah.
session, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And that's what we started doing. And then we thought, well, we can do the podcast and talk about immigration because the idea was to offer this tool to therapists so they can treat immigrants on other part of the world. Because if you don't speak the language and you're going to a therapist in, I don't know, in the United States or some other countries in Europe where they don't speak Spanish or they don't know your culture is a big deal. So you can't treat someone if you don't
Sure.
understand. So anyways, not getting off topic.
You can't understand quiero flan if you don't know what flan is.
No, you don't. You tell me canicas. I don't know I mean, I know canicas because of the movie, but in Argentina we call them
Yeah. Yeah.
bolitas, not canicas, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean,
So yeah.
there's the culture is huge when you treat people, right? And it's a big deal. If you don't have a way to meet someone that understands your culture, your language, you get help regardless. But if you have the possibility to choose, like a tool that will provide you someone from your native country, I would choose that. And but
Yeah.
that's me. So that's why my idea started a few years ago. I started developing, and then the podcast was just a way to market and bring people. But at this time of my life, I'm learning, and when I watch your show and
Yeah.
watching those people on your show, kind of it made me think about it. Like these people, I left Argentina, but these people are there, and
Yeah.
you're another example.
Yeah.
So I
I
do
just
it.
recently, I mean, recently, it was on Forbes or one of these. Buenos Aires is one of the best countries in Argentina, or Buenos Aires, one of the best cities to live in the world right now.
Right.
Argentina. So I think this is a really good moment. I've lived here long enough to survive, obviously, because it's not an easy place to live. I don't
Right.
think, some of the stuff that I've experienced, I don't think any American could experience, or anyone who lives in a financially stable economy and a financially stable world. Here you would Argentines are economically indestructible. They're indestructible, man.
It's
There's
funny, but it's
no,
true.
they'll always find a way to have an asado. They'll always find a way to drink mate.
Go on vacation with no money.
They'll always find a way to go on vacation, man. They're just like, it's just, I don't know. Their level of resistance is immense, and mine's too. I mean, that's why, it's admirable.
Right.
I admire I
Right.
admire myself as much as I admire every Argentine that can survive. I mean, not the bum. Bums are bums. You got bums all
Right.
over. A bum is a bum. And unfortunately, there
Right.
are a lot of bums now because there are a lot of bums. The history of the past 20 years has led Argentina to have a generation of useless bums, man. People who can't
Right.
read, can't write, can't talk, don't know how to do anything because
Right.
culture and education someone just flushed the toilet on culture and
Right.
education.
Right.
So that's going to take some time to repair. But I think that
Paul, I
in the
had
next 10 years, this place will be a paradise.
right. I had two last questions, Paul, for you.
Sure.
One question I want your opinion on immigration. Immigration is a hot topic right now, and
Hmm.
you almost feel like being an immigrant is a bad thing, right? I think my opinion is an immigrant is a good thing, and I think to a certain capacity, to a certain extent, an immigrant is an entrepreneur. Is an entrepreneur, right?
Hmm.
Entrepreneur mentality. What's your take on that?
Well, it depends on the country. It depends on the immigrants. And in Argentina, we had a lot of immigrants, but all those immigrants now are a financial burden for for the government. And you have a lot of immigrants that came here and became bums. They became I don't know, a burden, an economic burden. We had, when it depends on the immigrant. If you got an immigrant that wants to work and has good moral values, has a mother, a father. It's depends on the immigrant. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody's the same. You know, in this town where I live by the beach, they brought in busloads of people that just had no education, and
Right,
it's like, so it all depends, man. It
right,
all depends. You
yeah,
can't label
right,
you have to look at each individual person, or
right. I mean,
family,
I
let's
don't think
say.
immigration is a bad thing. I do think there's
No, no,
bad
it's not a bad
immigration
thing.
if
I
it's
mean,
not managed or controlled properly, right?
yeah.
But I mean,
If your immigration pool is a bunch of, drug dealers and rapists,
yeah,
it's not good for any society. But if you're immigrants, your
yeah,
pool is, engineers, doctors, and, teachers, then it's good.
right,
Even actors or people, but if it depends, man. If your
right,
immigrants are all criminals and bums, they're no
right.
good for any country. They're no
Well,
good anywhere.
interesting enough, we went to France last year with my wife. We went to France and we went to Spain. So we went to Paris, and at the airport, that we arrived at the airport, everybody was Arab. I said, where are the French people? And
Yeah,
I mean, I have nothing against them, the Arabs, but that caught my attention. And as we drove away from the airport, I would make it close to the Eiffel Tower. We were closer to the Eiffel Tower where we got our place to stay. Yeah, and then you see the more French people to a certain extent too. But as you drive away from the Eiffel Tower, you can also find more real French type of environment, which we did. We rent a car, we drove away. We want to see the real French life. But that's
sure.
another effect of immigration, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you might get smart people, but there's this cultural challenges too
Well,
about
yeah, man.
immigration.
That's because it's a stereotype. You see an Arab, and automatically you think, well, he's a Muslim. He's probably a terrorist, because that's because of the news and everything else. You know what I mean? It's just a kind of stereotype. You see an Italian, you think
Right,
of pizza. You think of meatballs.
right,
You see a Mexican, you think of tacos. Me, because
right,
I'm racist, man. I mean,
right,
I was born in a really racist community, man. I'm not
right,
racist. Yeah, I will never hurt anybody because of their race, but you
right,
distinguish people as race. You see a Mexican, you think of enchiladas and Speedy Gonzalez. You see
right,
you see an Italian, you think of Mario Brothers and Luigi and pizza.
right,
You
right.
think of French and you think of Pepe Le Pew, things like that. But those are
Yeah.
things that you associate things with. But it doesn't make people bad. It doesn't make a situation bad. It's just the way that we see things. And not everybody sees things the way we see them, you know?
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know,
Yeah.
I was in Spain, and I spent most of my time eating shawarmas and fatais because they were all Arabs.
Right.
I was like, where's the paella? And then I tried the
Right.
paella. It was terrible.
But yeah, immigration is a hot topic right now, and as my channel is growing, because I'm growing, I get more comments,
Good.
and I start
Congratulations.
getting hate comments with
Yeah,
someone.
well, you will. My advice to you is just don't read them.
I try
Just don't
not
read
to,
them, man.
but
Don't
it
read them,
also as a
man.
new channel, you have to engage people,
Yeah, but
and
just
that help you move the needle. But yeah,
I don't read them,
one
man.
person accused me of promoting immigration. I'm not promoting immigration. My thing is
Yeah,
about stories like yours, right?
yeah.
you went to the United States, everybody wants to be here. You moved to Argentina, and you started your life in Argentina. You're happy there. You learn how to live and survive in Argentina. You will never leave Argentina, at least not now. So that's what I'm looking
Uh,
for, right? I want to know who Paul
I mean,
Perry is and why he
my
choose Argentina when everybody wants to be in the United States.
my coming, I did Argentina a favor by coming here. If I hadn't come
Right,
here, some of the things that I created, I had a baseball team, the Buenos Aires Yankees, for 10 years. I started the first ever All-American baseball team in
right,
Argentine baseball history. It was the Buenos Aires Yankees. We won the championship in 2018. We went undefeated. We were flying in baseball players from all over the world. My sponsor was an American Airlines pilot, and I revolutionized a lot of things here. Not to toot my own horn, but I did revolutionize a lot of things here through my American,
right.
through my, my experience here. When I first got here, I thought I was from the future, man. I had a Fila hat, a Nike hat,
Yeah,
I had high top sneakers, I had Cavaricci jeans, a bomber jacket, rat's tail. People were looking at me
right,
back in the
right.
time when everybody just wore kickers and Wranglers. You know what I'm saying? So anyway,
Tight
so
jeans, long hair.
yeah, yeah, long hair.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. I mean, you need immigrants. I mean, if it wasn't for Argentina, especially
Right,
Argentina, if it wasn't for immigrants, we wouldn't have el colectivo, we invented
right,
the bus system. We wouldn't have a pen. We wouldn't have, la huella, fingerprints that was invented by by an immigrant that came to Argentina.
right.
So the United States is a country based on immigrants.
It's the same. There's no difference between U.S. and Argentina except for the
Yeah.
economy, right? And the
Yeah.
British colonized the North America and the Spanish colonized
uh,
South America. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no other difference.
Einstein was an immigrant, and look what he did for the
Right,
United States. He
right,
created a bomb that killed
right,
millions of people, man.
right,
So it depends. Hey, what makes Einstein a good immigrant?
right,
Go figure.
right.
Uh,
So last question, Paul. Go ahead. Sorry.
if you kill a cockroach, you're a hero. If you kill a butterfly, oh, you have a beautiful soul. It depends, man, on the
Right,
aesthetics.
right. I agree. So last question. I always ask for people to give an advice if they will, an advice to any immigrant, someone that is maybe planning to migrate right now or planning to return, or maybe someone in the
Mhm.
US is thinking, I want to retire in another country. What advice do you have?
My first piece of advice would say, don't think that your culture is the one that is superior. And that means adapt to the culture in which you want to live in. And if you have an opinion, keep it to yourself. Because if you choose to live in another country, you can't go to that country and think that you are the God's gift to that country. You know what I'm saying? So you have to try to keep an open mind. Just because your way of doing things is good for you, is the best for you, it doesn't mean it's the same for that culture or that person or that. And always keep it authentic and always stay true to yourself.
Right.
And that'll make
That
the
goes
difference.
that goes for every immigrant in any country. What you just say
Yeah.
is very smart. Like I think most immigrants they take your advice will progress any country they are. When you
Yeah.
fight it back, you fight your culture, you want to impose your culture in a country that is not yours, then there's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great advice. All right, Paul. I don't have
Thank
more
you.
questions.
All right,
I'm gonna
man.
take. I'm gonna for the audience. I'm gonna put all the information about Paul podcast and his books on the description. So when this goes
Sure.
out, which is gonna go out this Sunday,
Sure. Great.
people will
Excellent.
be able to see that.
All
All right,
right.
Paul. Thanks,
Well, thank
Paul.
you for your
Thank you.
time, man. Thank you. It was great talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
All right. Ciao, everybody.